How to improve your life? It's a good question because if you're feeling stuck, unmotivated, and like you're failing at life, it is important to understand this one thing that I'm going to share with you in this video that's going to make a world of difference. And I know that that sounds like, a lot of mumbo jumbo, but I promise you that if you learn this practice and begin to work through it, that you're going to start seeing a difference. Because feeling like you're failing at life, or that your life is not going well, can really feel like you have to make these huge changes in order to make a difference or to feel a difference. But I promise you that that's not the case. It's actually more about smaller changes that can actually move and create momentum and start making a difference in our lives. And so today I'm going to share that one practice, but I'm going to break it up into 4 smaller actionable steps that are going to feel really doable and that you can just head right into that even after watching this video. So let's get started. First, I'm going to speak about the one practice, and that is really starting to self-awareness and getting to know yourself. And I know that sounds extremely simplistic, right? Because I think, I know myself and I don't need to fix my life or improve my life. But I promise you that this is a level of self-awareness that most of us honestly don't really know, become aware of the need to practice it. And so it's about digging in a little bit deeper to know our behaviors and patterns. And that brings me to step number 1, which is notice what's happening. Okay. What I mean by that is we typically are on autopilot and we just continue our lives and we go to work and we deal with family and we do all of the things that we have to do, or not. If we don't have family and you're still single and young and sort of plowing, a lot of times we just live on autopilot. So step number 1 is asking you to notice what is going on a particular day. And a way to do this, which sounds kind of silly, is to set an alarm, 1 or 2 alarms throughout the day, and you label it, what am I doing now? Okay. And when the alarm goes off, you can ask yourself, okay, where am I right now? And how am I feeling? Those 2 questions are going to force you to be present, become present in what's happening currently so that you can get off autopilot, and then also evaluate what you're doing and how you're feeling. And that starts to kind of cut out that autopilot way of living where you're not noticing at all or not conscious at all of what's happening, how you're reacting to the external environment, and how you might be even feeling, right? Sometimes we're just going about life and we're not becoming conscious or aware of how we're feeling and why that might be. And the reason why this is so important, even though it sounds kind of silly and super simple and like, why is this going to make a difference, is because if we don't start noticing certain things, then we can't make changes. Noticing our behaviors and our patterns, right, of us knowing and getting to understand of what we need to change. So without doing that, we won't know what we need to change. And then we're not able to make those changes that initially or essentially will start moving, improvements along, and we'll start making changes to your life. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And we can't change what we don't know we need to change. And we won't know what we need to change unless we start really noticing our behaviors, our patterns, and getting to know how we're showing up and what are we doing throughout our daily life. And so that's why number 1 is really important, and a slight, not a slight, but the beginning of this process. Step number 2 is observe. What do I mean by observe? What I mean by observe is now that you've started noticing, right, certain behaviors and patterns, and you don't have to deal with all of them at once, but just 1 or 2 that you're noticing throughout your day when you ask questions of yourself during the alarm periods. Observe means pay attention to what those behavior patterns are without judgment. Just observe them. So when the alarm goes off and you're like, okay, what am I doing now? What am I feeling? Okay, well, right now I'm just scrolling on my phone. I should be working or I should be doing certain tasks, but I'm just scrolling on my phone. And I'm feeling kind of, I'm not sure, bored or unmotivated. I don't really want to get any of my tasks done, right? So that's step number one. During step number two, when you're observing without judgment, it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, so at this particular time during the day, I was just scrolling on my phone rather than doing the tasks that I'm supposed to do. And when I don't do them, then later on I feel, like a failure, and I feel like I'm not fulfilling what I'm supposed to do, and I feel like I'm not getting things done, and that sort of sends me down this spiral, right? So the observe without judgment piece is, okay, I'm scrolling on my phone. I'm not getting my tasks done. Instead of saying, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I do what I'm supposed to do? It's more of just sitting and observing. This is the behavior that I'm observing right now. This is the pattern that I see that I am doing, okay? And for a full day, you can start sort of just jotting those observations down. Again, without judgment. This is not about judging yourself or making yourself feel bad about a certain behavior or pattern that you're seeing, okay? Because we all do it. You're not the only one. And so this is not about judging. It's about becoming more and more aware of you, your behaviors, your patterns, so that then you can start understanding where you need to make some changes, okay? And so observation helps you see those patterns without pressure to right away fix them. You're just observing. It's almost like watching a movie and you're the star. Step number 3 is my favorite, because step number 3 takes the things that you've learned in step number 1 by noticing what's happening. Step number 2, observing those behaviors, like being really conscious of them. Then step number 3 comes in and says, okay, why are you doing this? Curiosity. Step number 3 is all about curiosity. And it asks you to ask yourself those questions, right? So why am I not getting my tasks done? Why am I avoiding, let's say, if that's a pattern that you're noticing, why am I avoiding the tasks that I know I need to get done? What's going on within me? What are some other thoughts that are coming through my mind that are distracting me or forcing me to think about other things or maybe stopping me from doing things that I want to do? So it's all about, figuring out what's triggering this habit or this pattern. And what do I actually need to be doing right now? So it's a matter of getting curious and starting to almost research the patterns that you've noticed and observed. And getting curious allows you to start exploring, right? Exploring a conversation with you to gain a better understanding and to learn. Curiosity, step number 3 in getting curious, allows for many, many learning opportunities, because as you practice this and you get more and more used to it, and you get deeper and deeper in your questioning of yourself, you'll get aha moments. You will get aha moments that will just be like revelations. And those are learning opportunities and learnings that you can then take again to plan how you're going to change certain things, patterns and habits and behaviors, so that you can begin the momentum to improving your life. Step number 4. Reflection. I love reflection in anything that's about learning, because learning really happens anytime that we take to pause and reflect on what has just happened, what we've learned literally if we are in school, a conversation we've just had. Taking time to reflect on an experience really allows for learning. And so here it's the same thing. If you think about steps 1 through 3, there's a process and a journey of getting to know yourself, connecting with what's happening, observing those behaviors, and then getting curious about why that's how you're behaving, or those are your patterns, or those are the things that you're choosing to do as opposed to those that you're not supposed to do, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about, going through that journey to explore and get to know yourself. And then Step number 4 is reflecting on what you have found, because this is where the learning happens, and it turns the awareness and the learnings that you have done into real action. I love reflection time at night before you go to bed, or if you're just in bed and you have, if you journal, that's wonderful. This is a great process to take into account or to use for journaling. But if not, even if you're just laying in bed and you can just think to yourself as a reflection or an evening check-in, what's one thing that I noticed today as I went through this process? Okay. Really important to take that in and understand and just think about it if you don't want to write it down. What is one habit that I observed? And is that a habit that's helping me, or is that a habit that's hindering me? Okay. Again, no judgment on any of this. You're doing amazing. You are not failing. All is well. It's just a matter of taking time to understand, get to know yourself so you can understand some of these behaviors that are causing your life to maybe not be exactly where you want it to be just yet. And then take all of that and say, okay, what's one thing that I'll do differently tomorrow? Because here's the key. You take the learnings from the observed and noticed behavior, and then you decide to make one small change. And you might say, oh, come on, but Sin, one small change, how's that going to make a difference? I promise you it will. And you know how I know? Because I have been there. This is not something that I was born, knowing already. I had to change my entire mindset, and my inability to focus on me and pay attention to what was happening within me and my system and getting to know myself. I was completely on autopilot, not paying any attention, letting things really bother me and piss me off, always angry, and never really paying attention to any of it until I finally started putting these things into practice. And I've been doing it for a long time. And I can tell you that it takes time. These are small steps. This is as they say, a marathon, not a race. So no judgment, no pressure to do or get anything done by a certain amount of time, or it's not about that, because the more you do this and the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And then as you go through your day, you're going to start to notice that your behavior is naturally going to change, because you're so aware already of what your typical habits and patterns are that you're going to suddenly say, oh, wait a second, you know what? I know that I usually just go to my phone and start, scrolling here and there as opposed to doing what I'm supposed to do. Let me take 10 minutes and do my task, and then I can, you'll just start noticing, almost like preventing the behavior from happening before it does, because you've built that muscle of self-awareness, of understanding who you are, of understanding your patterns, of understanding your behaviors that are hindering you from having the life that you want. And this is the beginning. And then suddenly, slowly, things start falling into place, and you start feeling better about the decisions that you're making, and you start feeling better about how you're showing up in life, and you start feeling better about the things that you have to do, and you start getting things done, and it just starts moving. I promise you that it does, because I've been there, and still some days I have to be much more mindful about that self-awareness piece than others, and that's okay, because we are human. But I promise you that you're not failing. Your life is not a failure, okay? You're just going through the motions of living, as so many of us do, without taking some time to become a bit more self-aware of why that is. And that's the beginning of breaking free from that autopilot, sort of chaotic way of living. And you'd be really, really surprised how it just makes a huge, huge difference. So let me know in the comments if this resonated, if it landed, if the steps felt doable and actionable, or if they still feel a bit abstract or complicated. I would love to hear from you so that I can make adjustments, and happy to do another video or, several other videos around this topic. Check back in if it's something that you want to continue to learn about, because I am creating a series around all of this. So, if you're interested and it resonates, obviously subscribe and like this video, and I will see you on the next one. Good luck. Let me know in the comments how your 4 steps are going. Take care.